Yeah, that's one thing that we've been very specific about at the 5 Minute Career Hack. The employment life cycle is not just when you start a job and you end that job, whether by layoff, fired, or you quit and leave, or retire even. The employment life cycle starts ultimately with your experience in your education, that resume that you put together to apply for the job, the interview process, the salary negotiation process, interviewing, once you're onboarding, so all the training, all those the computer-based learning, everything that you have to do to then go do the job. And then lastly, it's the exit strategy once you leave the job. That's the entire employment life cycle. If you're putting on your resume that I did 10 people's jobs in one, they're going to want you to do 10 people's jobs in one versus I was able to accomplish this through other people. So how you communicate very early on in the process in the entire employment life cycle is huge for setting boundaries and avoiding burnout. Here's a snippet from an interview I did on the Negotiate Anything podcast with Kwame Christian earlier this year.
Absolutely. And that is a perfect segue into what we're going to talk about today, which is how to set boundaries, because you don't make it to the top unless you are good at setting boundaries early, often, and consistently. And one of the things that I love about your approach is that you don't just focus on a person's career just as a snapshot in the moment. You talk about the entire life cycle of an employee and an individual contributor. And so when we think about how to set boundaries, we shouldn't just think about it in terms of each individual occurrence. We should also think about it holistically as a career building strategy. So can you tell us a bit about the employee life cycle and how setting boundaries plays a role in that process?
Yeah, that's one thing that we've been very specific about at the 5 Minute Career Hack. The employment life cycle is not just when you start a job and you end that job, whether by layoff, fired, or you quit and leave, or retire even. The employment life cycle starts ultimately with your experience in your education, that resume that you put together to apply for the job, the interview process, the salary negotiation process, interviewing, once you're onboarding, so all the training, all those the computer-based learning, everything that you have to do to then go do the job. And then lastly, it's the exit strategy once you leave the job. That's the entire employment life cycle. And at the 5 Minute Crack, we firmly believe that setting boundaries happens.
Are you feeling stuck in your career? Are you ready to stop going through the motions? Are you ready to start living on purpose? Well, here's the thing. I'm going to say something very radical. Throw away your goals. Oh my gosh, right? Stop looking at them. Secure your spot today for Burn the Rulebook Career Transformation Lab and get ready to take action and transform your future. Over 3 days, we'll help you prepare, position, and live on purpose in both your career and your life. We will help you find balance. Deep dive into strategies designed to help you stop playing by the rules that have held you back and take control of your future. We'll give you the tools to execute with confidence so that you're not just talking about it and looking at it and hoping for change, you're making it happen.
Throughout that entire process, a lot of times people think of setting boundaries when something has gone wrong and when someone's crossed a boundary, right? Or what you perceive to be a boundary for you that you don't care for. And that boundary at that point, it's now you're trying to retrain someone how to do something differently, how to interact with you differently. And that's very difficult to do. We're human beings, we're creatures of habit. You show me how to treat you based upon how you're showing up to work in that interaction. And what we coach people on and how we coach people is just to simply say, this is how I want to be communicated with. This is how I want to be addressed. This is the amount of hours I'm going to put in. Those are boundaries as well. These are the resources in the interview process is so important. What resources will I have to do this job? One of the things I learned early in my career, especially in retail, I took over a lot of tough assignments, fix this mess assignments, as I like to call them. And I didn't do a great job of saying, these are the resources for me to be able to, that I will need to be able to fix this mess. And then had to go back, which is very difficult, ask for additional payroll, ask for additional support and cross-functional teams as well as individuals. Maybe I even needed additional managers for that to be able to truly fix it systemically. And by not setting those boundaries, it caused more workload for me, obviously more stress, and it ultimately led to burnout. And that is what we teach people. That's what I'm very laser focused on, is how you set those boundaries specifically throughout that entire process. If you're putting on your resume that I did 10 people's jobs in one, they're going to want you to do 10 people's jobs in one, versus I was able to accomplish this through other people. So how you communicate very early on in the process in the entire employment life cycle is huge for setting boundaries and avoiding burnout.
Oh, this is great. The masterclass has started early,
Yes.
Jamila. I appreciate that. And let's bring back a basketball metaphor here, just sports
Yeah.
and just life in general. It's easier to win if you started with a lead and maintained the lead rather than playing from behind. And
Very
it
much
seems
so.
like that's what we're doing here when it comes to setting boundaries, because this right here already is a paradigm shift. Because tell me if I'm off on this, but it sounds like one of the challenges people have when it comes to setting boundaries is they begin the boundary setting process way too late in the process. And it could
Absolutely.
be a lot easier if you just start the process sooner.
Right. I think, whether it's sports or relationships that you're in with your significant other, your family members, siblings, parents, whomever, you'll note and you can recall, you'll have testimonies that will tell you, Jamila, if you operate like this early, it's so much easier than to actually manage that relationship moving forward. However, if you then say, okay, I want this to be different, right? You're married, right? I want this to be different 10 years down the road. After it's operated one way for so long, I might have to go to counseling for us to be able to work on how that's going to go moving forward if I truly want this, because we've built a structure, we've built a cadence, habits around us operating this way. Not to say that it can't happen, but it's tough. We're human beings. We like habit. Our brains are wired for habits. That's what keeps us alive, right? It are those habits that helps us to survive. So when you're looking to change those types of behaviors in relationship, it's very difficult for adults specifically. I would say even probably for kids to some degree, but they're a little bit faster. I'm gonna be honest. They're a little bit faster. Studies show that, because they're sponges. They don't have as much on their mental hard drive as we do. But I believe
Absolutely.
that the earlier, the better. I truly hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed doing it for you. However, it doesn't have to end there. Come on over to our Facebook group community right now. You're going to get exclusive content that we weren't able to include in this episode as well as past episodes. We've got challenges, we've got research, we've got lives, you name it, all for you in bite-sized chunks so that you can continue this development journey. Go ahead, click the link right now in the description show notes, and we'll see you there.